Introducing the new Volvo XC90 with 7-seat versatility, Google built-in, and advanced safety features for all your precious cargo. The new Volvo XC90, designed for life. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more.
This summer, try the new Strato Frappuccino blended beverage at Starbucks. It's the classic blended iced coffee you know and love, now topped with a creamy layer of handcrafted brown sugar cold foam. Available for a limited time. Your Strato Frappuccino is ready at Starbucks.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. And when it comes to checking off coverage, a State Farm agent can help you choose an option that's right for you. Whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We are so excited to bring you this show.
Our podcast is all about unraveling all of your favorite mysteries from the Assassin's Creed games. Each episode we'll be talking about a different topic in the Assassin's Creed universe. From Pieces of Eden, solar flares, and the Isu, to the Hidden Ones, the Order of Ancients, and of course, the Animus. We will seek to uncover it all.
So join us and maybe even take a leap of faith.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. My name is Shelby. You also know me as She-Cup, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hey, I am Austin or Teacup.
That's right. And we are back with another Assassins versus Templar episode.
Yes, and today we are sticking in England. Last week we were at Richard I. We're jumping ahead like 500, 600, maybe 700 years.
It's not that long. Wasn't it Richard the 1100?
It's the 1200s. 1200. So only like 300 years.
Yeah, only a few hundred.
Okay. And so we're going to talk about another English monarch. Yes, she is a monarch. We are talking about Anne Boleyn, which, if you don't know, you might be familiar because she is the wife of Henry VIII, who is, I think, probably one of the most well-known and in like popular culture. Like when you think kings of England, you think
Henry.
You think Richard I, King George if you're an American, King George III, Henry VIII, other things like that. But so she is the second wife of King Henry VIII and is Queen of England from 1533 to 1536. Now you might be saying that's not a long time. Well, I'm going to have a spoiler alert for you. There is not a long-lasting queen for the entirety of King Henry VIII's reign.
Well, no, it takes his daughter.
Yes, to be one of the longest. Well, she is one of the longest reigning monarchs until she's usurped by another queen, Queen Victoria, who is then usurped by another queen, Queen Elizabeth II.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
So she was, what's interesting about, if you don't know about Henry or Anne Boleyn, and I'm not going to go into a lot of her history, but so basically what happens is in the 1500s, King Henry is really pissed about that Catherine of Aragon, his first wife, has not produced a male heir. And he's obsessed with this. He's so obsessed, which we know, like, unsure successions cause turmoil in the realm. So I think there is an understandable stress of not knowing an heir. But as we learn later from the results of this, he could have just named one of his daughters his heir.
Yeah, but also, like, it's his fault that he's not producing a male heir.
But he doesn't know that.
They don't know that at that time. But, like, it is the man's DNA that determines whether the child is a male or a female. So, like, it's on you, buddy. Stop blaming your wives.
I will say that we are going to talk about kind of infertility and miscarriages in this episode. So if that is a trigger for you, you might want to skip this episode or just be prepared. I know that's a trying time for some people, and I just want you to be aware of that. So what's interesting is Anne Boleyn is basically... she's a maid of Catherine of Aragon, which we'll talk about how she gets there. And so Henry VIII basically courts her and then is like, hey, I really want to marry this girl instead. Mm-hmm. And then Pope Clement, who is the Pope at the time, is just like, no.
Because Catherine of Aragon is like a famous Catholic. Like, she was super Catholic.
Yes, she is tied to the Spanish nobility.
Yeah.
Which... pretty soon after this is one of the most famous Catholic monarchs is ruling Spain, and just a little bit Philip of Spain. So, like,
I do have to wonder though, like, if Catherine of Aragon had not been as Catholic as she was, would the Pope have allowed the divorce?
Maybe. I don't know, because the popes at this time are kind of weird. And, like, the popes are in this, like, no, we have to stick to what we establish as our doctrine, and we cannot vary on our doctrine at all because
of Lutheranism.
Because of Martin Luther.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of that. And, like, a lot of Catholicism is coming under attack. So there's a lot of factors here. Well, King Henry VIII basically is best buddies with the Archbishop of Canterbury, which is like the leader of Catholicism in England, who is not really a Lutheran, but is a little power hungry at the moment and
has empathy for the Protestant side.
Yes. And would really like to not have to report to the Pope. And so he's like, hey, let's just do it anyway.
Right. Martin Luther did it, and he wasn't king of Germany.
So Henry VIII divorces Catherine of Aragon, and the Archbishop of Canterbury declares it null and he actually annuls the marriage. So he doesn't actually divorce her. There is no divorce. Basically,
it was as if they were never married.
They were never married. And
which, like, they definitely had sex. So, like, okay.
Yes. So the Archbishop of Canterbury and Henry VIII are then excommunicated by Pope Clement, and it starts the whole thing, and the Church of England is founded. He wants to marry Anne Boleyn, who before this had 2 previously broken off engagements.
Follow-up question. I didn't know this, but was she the one that broke off the engagements, or were the men?
It was her father who was breaking off these engagements. And basically after the breaking off of the first engagement is when she goes to serve in Catherine of Aragon's court as her maid. And then she gets engaged again to another noble at that point. And her father then breaks that off because Henry VIII wants to marry her.
Okay, well, who can turn down the king?
Yeah, exactly. So from like a personality, Anne Boleyn was said to be intelligent and politically savvy and to have a very quick wit, which, to quote Henry VIII himself, he found these attributes attractive in a mistress but unbecoming of a wife.
He's so gross.
I know. I wrote in my show notes, cue sounds of Shelby puking.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. I've heard that before. That's not new information to me. But I mean, to be fair to Henry, let's see it from Henry's perspective, right? When you are queen of a country, there is a certain role that you have to live up to. And I don't necessarily think that political savviness or intelligence are things that disqualify you from being a monarch. But some of the things we'll talk about later, I do think would have been a little bit more on the disqualifying side.
As you say that, I just found this quote of what was said just really interesting. She was once reported to have spoken to her uncle in words that shouldn't have been used to a dog.
Which means she was cussing him up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know for what.
Right, because there's not a lot I won't say to a dog.
Well, that's not true. You would never cuss at our dogs. Not like this.
No, not like that. So Anne presides over a court within the royal household, which is pretty standard for a queen. Like, the queen runs the royal household, so all the servants and the maid, like, they don't report to the king. They all report to the queen, or like their heads of like whatever section, like the head butler, the maid, all kinds of stuff. They report to the queen, and the queen directs like what they do and all of that stuff. The queen would also direct like the hostings of the events. Like if there were events at the palace's dinners, like the queen would be part of that execution and things like that. So this is normal. She spent lavish amounts of money on gowns, jewels, headdresses, ostrich feather fans, riding equipment, furniture, upholstery, and maintaining the ostentatious display required by her status. Numerous of palaces were renovated to suit the extravagant taste she and Henry shared. So she is a big spender.
You know, I do think of all of his wives, I do think she is the one that is most suited to him in terms of like personality and the things they value.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're both super ostentatious. They're both super concerned with the frivolities that money can buy, with clothing and all that kind of stuff, their appearance.
Right. And there's like their old line that like it's the one. So the wife he marries after her is Jane Seymour. Mm-hmm. And then there's the one after her is
Anne of Cleves.
Anne of Cleves, I think, is the one that they claim. It's either her or number 5 that is they claim is the only one he actually loved.
I think it's Jane Seymour because she's the only one that gets the queen's funeral.
Is she the one?
She's the one that dies in childbirth. Jane Seymour is.
Oh, okay. So Jane Seymour is the one that they claim that he's the only one he really loved. But I do agree with you. Like, from what I've done in my research, like Anne Boleyn is very much this like kind of I do what I want. And they're the most alike, which this is a point of like sometimes people who are very alike don't actually end up meshing well together.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. True. Sometimes opposites attract for a reason.
Yes. So and sometimes opposites complement. Like Catherine of Aragon was very much a like reserved and steady person who kind of couched Henry's impulsive and almost rage-inducing fits. Mm-hmm. Because he very much was you dare disrespect me, I'm going to bring down the full force of the Kingdom of England upon you. That was the kind of personality that Henry VIII had.
Yeah, very much. Very vindictive man.
Mm-hmm. So Anne actually takes the blame for a lot of what is considered Henry's tyranny, which is really like Henry basically separates from the Catholic Church and then makes a decree of like, no, we're not going to be Protestant, which he's now pissed off the Catholics because he separated from the church, and he's pissed off the Protestants because he's not Protestant enough.
Yeah, he's pissed off everybody, which is the last place you want to be as a ruler.
Correct.
So he's done it all.
Or any kind of leader.
Yeah.
So they called her the king's whore, or the naughty Paki or something. It's I would
assume Pake. I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's just a English word for prostitute. public opinion turned further against her after the marriage produced no male heir, which makes sense because like
that was the whole reason they got married.
Yeah, now she's not producing a male heir, which again at this point, like at what point do they say, hey, maybe it's the king's fault and not the women?
Well, not on number 2, that's for sure. You got to get at least to number 4 before they start thinking it's his fault.
That's true.
But I do think that it's important to say at this time in history, like, childbirth was a woman's job. Like, bearing a child, that was a woman's job, and taking care of the home and the children, of course. But, like, this is what Anne is there for. And so it feels very unfair to us in 2025, for sure. And it is unfair to them then, but they lived in a culture where, like, they were raised for that to be their only expectation, especially nobility. So while, yes, it is unfair, it is important to also put it in its historical context.
Yes, definitely. Opinion of her sink even lower after, again, because she is so much like Henry, she executes her enemies, the people who speak out against her at court and stuff. Like, she organizes their deaths and their executions. Which, again, like, this time in England is just wrought with people being executed for disagreeing with the government. And so it's not going to stop with Anne executing her enemies.
No. Oh, we got 4 more wives after this.
Yes.
So
there are also rumors. So at this point in the story, after all this, Catherine of Aragon dies, which is a big deal because at this point, Henry is becoming dissatisfied with his marriage with Anne. Now, part of this is he doesn't feel like he can divorce Anne and then without having to legally like go back to Catherine.
Right, because it's probably true he can't.
Right.
But my question is, wasn't Catherine of Aragon older or like close to the same age as Henry?
Yes. So she dies, and the theory that rumors that spread around the common folk is that Henry and Anne poisoned Catherine of Aragon so that Henry wouldn't be, legally bound to her in any way. This is disproven by modern historians because basically what we can tell from the medical reports of her death is that she died of some kind of heart cancer. And like they didn't have an explanation for it at the time, but based on what like historians and medical historians have looked at the way the doctors describe her disease and her autopsy and stuff like that, because they did those back then. They looked into those kind of things.
Especially for somebody who was a former queen.
Yes. They can deduce with pretty accuracy. I mean, we can't say anything with accuracy because we don't know, but it seems like heart cancer. So Anne then continues to have a series of miscarriages. However, modern gynecologists, and I say modern, it's like he was a gynecologist in like the 60s to 80s. So,
well, compared to the 1500s,
yes,
that's pretty modern.
Most people consider the modern era starting in the 20th century. So I'm going to keep that. But I do want to clarify that I'm not talking about like a gynecologist in 20.
This is not somebody that you could go to. He's not currently practicing.
No.
If he's even alive.
Yes. John Dewhurst, he theorizes that perhaps these weren't actual miscarriages, but rather a pseudo-sciasis. It's basically false pregnancies, or the idea that like you want to be pregnant so bad
that you manifest the symptoms.
And other that. However, I don't necessarily trust this because I think this gets prescribed to a lot of people just because we love to prescribe that women are actually just insane and there's not actually something physically wrong with them.
Yeah, I do. I don't know. I have issues with this because like the ways that the medical system exists to kind of like, I don't want to say cover up or like make women feel less than when these kinds of things happen to them. But that's kind of what it is. Like, I mean, we have so many different terms for like miscarriage that I don't know. To me, theorizing that she wasn't actually miscarrying after so long when we really don't have much proof of it. It just seems callous to me.
Part of it is one of the evidences that he gives is that there are several miscarriages that happen very shortly after Elizabeth's birth.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another thing of like the timing doesn't really match up. But again, that could just be an error in the historical record.
It could be, but also you can get pregnant right after birth.
Yes.
There is a myth that you can't get pregnant if you're breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. You can get pregnant right after birth. And now modern doctors say like, hey, you need to wait 6 to 8 weeks so you can heal down there. But I'm sorry. Do you think Henry VIII is waiting 6 to 8 weeks so that his wife can heal from pregnancy?
I think like this kind of stuff is also, I feel like, part of the reason that like postpartum death was so rampant.
Yes. Infection.
Yeah. But I also don't trust this because one of the miscarriages reported after this is a son that miscarries after 4 months of gestation.
Well, that wouldn't even be a miscarriage at that point. That would be a stillbirth.
Right. But I mean, that's the term that they use at this point. But it's really interesting because in the like one of the historians at the time, or the chronicler's medical journals, basically says that Anne Boleyn, the Queen Anne, has miscarried her savior.
That's sad. And true.
Yeah, like because she does have a son, but he dies.
Right.
And it's a point of like, this would have saved her.
But also, I don't know. It just it's hard to imagine because history would be so different.
Yes, it would. Because then you don't have Jane Seymour, who gives birth to Edward. I think the 7th is what he is. He's the boy king that only rules for a little bit.
I don't remember.
And then you have a bunch of others. And then there's the one who outlives him.
The Catherines.
Yes.
I don't remember which one.
The other
Anne
Catherine.
of Cleves and the Catherines and Jane, they wouldn't have been around.
Mm-hmm.
So
after her miscarriages, Henry VIII declared that Anne tricked him into marriage by deception and spells because there's no way to discredit a woman than to accuse her of witchcraft.
Yep.
Fun fact, he was already having an affair with Jane Seymour at this point.
The man loves his affairs.
Yes. Lots of affairs in the nobility of Europe.
I think that's just a nobility, period.
Yeah. I mean, we look at that. Look at our celebrities, which are kind of function.
Look at our presidents.
Yeah.
My God.
Even the ones we think are good, like JFK.
We think JFK was good.
Was a good president? I don't know.
I don't know.
So this is an interesting point that I want to leave us on before we go to the mid-break, because we're going to kind of talk about this. So Anne's biographer, Eric Ives, who wrote her biography, believes that her fall and execution were primarily engineered by her former ally, Thomas Cromwell. Cromwell should be, if you're familiar with this era of history, this should be a big name that you know.
Yeah, you should know him.
And so he is basically an orchestrator of all of the English Reformation. And he
does a lot.
He does a lot.
He's a busy man.
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about his implications with Anne and everything else after the mid-break.
All right, well, let's go to it.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, "It's my classroom, you're just learning in it." And preppy polos that say, "I'm the teacher's pet," even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Love espresso, drip coffee, and cold brew? With the Ninja Luxe Cafe, if you can crave it, you can brew it. Espresso, balanced. Drip coffee, rich. Cold brew in a flash. With Barista Assist technology, you brew with no stress and no guesswork and make perfect silky microfoam hands-free from dairy or plant-based milks. Shop the Ninja Luxe Cafe at ninjakitchen.com.
Ma cos'è? Shoot! Shoot a flying demon!
Quite a carriage you got there. Where did you buy it, if you don't mind me asking?
Ask all you want, Freddy. You'll never get an answer.
Damn it all. Was it my eyebrows?
Yes, and your face, voice, and body.
What have you done? We used them. They were not ready for firing. You could have gotten us all killed. Let me see. His breath is more fatal than our cannons. Only when you two fools are shooting them. There, try it.
All right, welcome to the middle of the show. This is where we talk about all the things that have to do with the Assassin's Creed lorecast and not the lore of Assassin's Creed. So the first thing that I have to do is thank all of our amazing patrons. Thank you all so much for your financial support. As a reminder, you can join our Patreon too for as low as $5 a month. You can go to patreon.com/ACLorecast. And we will have another merch drop coming up in just about a month. So make sure you sign up and get in on that. And now, if you can't support us via Patreon, the next best way to do so is to leave us a rating or a review and let all of the potential listeners out there know that we are a good podcast to listen to. And so I do have one to read today from James T., who commented on our Assassin's Creed Shadows Stealth Overview episode and said, "Hello, Cups. Great episode as always. I just had an idea for an episode. What if you went over the various loadouts of each gear that the protagonists use in the games, from hidden blades all the way up to any pieces of Eden that they may have used, and compare the differences in the categories, like ranged hidden weapons or guns versus phantom blades?" Thank you so much for leaving that awesome review, James. And I think that's a great idea. And I will leave that up to Austin because he makes the lore decisions on this show. But thanks again for leaving that awesome review. We greatly appreciate it. And the next to last thing I have to do to shout out is our Discord server. It's a great place to hang out on the internet. If you're talking about Shadow's release and you just can't believe something that happened, or you've got an annoying bug that you don't know how to fix, or maybe you just want to vent about it, or maybe you're just enjoying the game and having a great time, definitely come hang out with us in the Discord Cup server. We are having a great time talking about Shadows over there, so definitely come hang out with us. And with that transition, I do want to transition us back into Shadows, because Shadows came out today as of this recording, about a week ago, as of the release of this game. Now, I haven't had a chance to play it because Austin has been all over the Xbox. I have been working, sadly. So I thought we could just kind of have some of your first impressions, Austin. Maybe one or two things you're really enjoying about the game so far, and any just general overview thoughts you have.
This game, I will tell you for now, this game feels like a happy love child between the systems of Syndicate and the systems of Origins, which I think is what they've advertised this as a marriage of the original formula and the RPG trilogy. Like, there are customizable things that exist in the game, but like it is pretty like standard, like combat the way it is feeling now. I will say I have only played 2 missions as Yasuke. I have not switched back from Naoe over to him. And so I don't really have much for his playthrough, but the playthrough of Naoe, like they're right. You cannot bully your way through strongholds as Naoe. Like, you will get, if there are more than like 3 enemies surrounding you, you're going to get wrecked.
Yeah, and I just can confirm I have watched you get your ass handed to you about 5 times so far, which never happens. Like, you are so much better at games than me. So I'm kind of scared, not gonna lie.
Well, I will say, for just some things for people that we have speculated on that some people might be wondering, there are difficulty customizations. I have not found, like, in the settings at least, like, difficulty sliders like we used to have. Like, we used to be able to change, like, do you have aim assist? Like, how much damage does your enemy do? I don't have those difficulty sliders in there, but there are things. You can change your difficulty at any time. You can change the difficulty of stealth versus the difficulty of combat. And there is a story mode. So if you just want to really hear this story and do that, you can.
I will be playing on story mode, most likely. Or maybe the first year after that.
Yeah. I think you will start playing on story mode and just feel like this is too easy. Let's amp up the difficulty.
And then get scared.
Yeah, which is what I end up doing in Dragon Age the Veilguard. I started too high and ended up bumping down. But the game seems really great. There was even a little modern day intro. I will say that, a little spoiler there. But and I was happy to see that. I've got lots of theories. There are lots of mentions of things. I've already got some theories working out. If you want to know them, you can either ask me in spoilers chats in AC, or if you really feel brave enough, you can send me a DM and I might tell you.
Yeah. You can still spoiler chat stuff in DMs.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really all I have to say about Shadows at the moment. I've seen a lot of positive stuff about the game online, and I just really want to echo this. Like, if you have been looking for a kind of return to formula, I think this is hitting that where you're getting with their exploration is a lot of fun, and it's not as daunting as it was originally teased at. Like, there are still map markers, there are still quest markers. It's not as intuitive or helpful sometimes as Valhalla's would be, but honestly, Valhalla's map is overwhelming, so I'm okay with that.
Yes, very much so. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I can't wait to play. And I hope you guys, if you're playing it, that you're enjoying it too. But for now, let's get back into Anne.
You set the table, put on a playlist, even made the lasagna from scratch. And now you're wearing it. OxyClean Max Force Spray tackles tough, set-in stains the first time. Adulting is hard. Fighting stains shouldn't be. OxyClean Max Force. It's not clean unless it's OxyClean.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso Virtual Coffee Machines. Ready to enjoy the bold flavors of barista-quality Nespresso iced coffee at home? Simply fill a glass with ice and press the brew button on your virtual pop machine to enjoy rich double espressos roasted to stand up even when chilled. Refreshingly bold iced coffee. Refreshingly easy to make at home. Visit Nespresso.com to shop now.
Today's top story, the flavor merger of the century between the Peanut Butter Group and Chocolatey Corp. Joining me is a PBC executive.
Thanks for having me, Barry.
Now, how did you know the merger and the byproduct of it, Jif peanut butter and chocolate flavored spread, would be a success?
You know, it was a gut feeling, a rumbling, if you will. Besides, they're two titans of taste.
Very true. Goes great with pretzels.
And pancakes.
Apples too, I bet. Try Jif PBC today.
Malaka. But that madman, the self-proclaimed Bishop of the Ruins, is our biggest critic. He calls our playing the devil's bagpipes.
I will sleep with anyone as long as they agree to be executed in the morning.
Like Xantivis.
He was well satisfied with his bargain. Who is this toothsome fellow?
My queen, this is,
Well?
It is a generous offer, but I've already pledged my life to this woman.
Aya, you have chosen well.
All right. So we need to talk about Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell, because this is really important. So if you don't know who Thomas Cromwell is, we kind of teased this before the mid-break. He is basically minister to the king, which is basically like the king's foremost advisor. He's also Lord Great Chamberlain, which I assume puts him at like a place of highness in the House of Lords, which it's important to note at this point in history, like the House of Lords, there is kind of a parliament almost at this point, but not quite really what you would consider. But the House of Lords is coming out, and it's going to have a lot of power in the coming years.
Have you ever looked up a picture of Thomas Cromwell?
I'm looking at one right now.
Don't you think he kind of looks like Martin Luther?
He does kind of look like Martin.
It's a little uncanny.
What if... biggest historical conspiracy theory.
They're the same person.
They're the same person.
I don't think you could make that work.
No, but he does kind of look like Martin Luther, but I think that's just because artists just painted everyone the same. Anyway, but he is the mastermind behind the English Reformation. And he is the one who makes it almost politically possible. He is the one in Henry VIII's ear. He's the one who secures the annulment. He is the one who really brings about all the policy changes and like separating. Basically, he's the one who convinces Henry VIII that like you can get divorced, but also this will be a political advantage for us because we will stop paying. Basically, we can stop paying taxes to the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. We can stop having to fund the Catholic Church, and that can be all internal.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a huge change.
Mm-hmm. So that's who Thomas Cromwell is. So this is a big guy. He is eventually an ally of Anne Boleyn because he secures her marriage and all of that. So Anne and Thomas Cromwell argue over the redistribution of church revenues and over foreign policy. Anne advocates that revenues to be distributed to charitable and educational institution, and she is in favor of a French alliance. Now, this is important because Anne Boleyn spent a lot of time in France. She is English born. She is an English native. So it's not that she's French, but a lot of times these nobles would send their children to other countries to learn or be caretaken there or to like shore up an alliance of some kind. So she spends a lot of time in France, which is important because that will shape her Reformationist beliefs that come in later. But Cromwell, as opposed to this, preferred an imperial alliance and insisted on filling the king's depleted coffers. So basically, Anne argues that if we're going to separate this extra revenue that we generate from the church should go back into charitable stuff. And Cromwell's like, no, we're bankrupt. We need to put it back into there. And honestly, I feel like they could have met a compromise, but neither of these people are big on compromise. Both Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell.
Well, and Henry, I mean, nobody who has absolute power is going to be keen on compromising with anybody.
Mm-mm. So Eric Ives suggests that Anne Boleyn had become a major threat to Thomas Cromwell at this point. Now, on the flip side, because history is never black and white and clear, Cromwell's biographer, John Schofield, on the other hand, contends that no power struggle existed between Anne and Cromwell, and that not a trace can be found of a Cromwellian conspiracy against Anne. Cromwell became involved in the royal marital drama only when Henry ordered him onto the case. Schofield claims that the evidence for the power struggle between Anne and Cromwell comprises no more than fly-by-night stories. Whether or not Cromwell orchestrated this plot seems irrelevant at the point because he would basically use Anne's downfalls for political advantage. He would encourage and use the rumors of her adultery and incest and other things, which are the charges that are brought up against her, as a way to delegitimize her. And so he might not have started the rumors, but he uses them to his advantage. I think there's probably some truth in the middle of this. I think they're probably Cromwell might not have utilized or made every rumor up or orchestrated everything, but there is definitely beef between them.
Well, and I do think that when you are a person like Thomas Cromwell who has a lot of power, but is not like the leader or the ruler, that's how you got your power. You know, you've betrayed, you've backstabbed, you've used the things that are available to you. And maybe you've also prettied those pieces of information up a little bit. Maybe you've embellished. Maybe you've added some glitter on there. So I don't see him. I do think it's entirely possible that he just made some stuff up completely. But there's no way he would have been able to make everything up. because at some point, when you keep doing that and making everything up, it's going to come back to you at some point in time. And so there has to be some semblance of truth in there.
Right. And I think Cromwell at this point is more of along the lines of like, it's a point of like, if I'm thinking back to the music Hamilton, you know, Hamilton confesses to his affair to Jefferson, Burr, and Madison.
Yeah.
And Jefferson and Madison are like, yeah, whatever. You're not like, we're not going to get what we want because you're not embezzling the government. So that we can't use this to destroy you. But then Hamilton says to Burr, like, how do I know you won't use this against me? In the musical, he says this. And Burr's like, Alexander, rumors only grow, and we both know what we know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of like political savvy I think Thomas Cromwell is, of like, he's not going to make something up, but he's going to be like, I'm not going to withhold information.
Right. He's going to use every tool in his arsenal. He's going to use everything that's available to him.
Right. And eventually Anne is executed and found guilty of these charges. Most modern historians say that she might have been guilty of adultery, but so was her husband. But the rumors of incest and treason are unfounded.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think she was his mistress first. You know, like there is always the little saying that the person you cheat with will go on to cheat on you. Mm-hmm. You know, and I mean, it's very clear that that's true for both of them. Like, this was not a love match. Like, they're both in this for what it could get them. They don't love each other.
And Anne Boleyn, just from a point of history, like, is a lesson in that, like, when you stick your power or your well-being on someone else who only cares for their own power and their well-being, it's going to come back and bite you.
Right, absolutely.
So just before we kind of get into Assassin or Templar, so Anne's spirituality, she was very supportive of the vernacular Bible, which that's a big word. Basically, that means that at this time, one of the big hot button issues was, can the Bible be in any other language besides Hebrew, Greek, and Latin? And the Catholic Church said no, and the Protestant Reformation said, screw you.
Absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah, let's put it in every language that's possible. So this is already a very Protestant and very controversial belief. She was highly influenced by French humanism, which has a very positive and high view of humanity, which is going to be very, contradictory to the Catholic view of basically at this point, Catholicism and a lot of the Reformations are taking a very depraved look at humanity. Humanity is bad, naturally bad, but then this humanist Renaissance, left over from the Renaissance kind of thinking that's going to lead into the Enlightenment, has a much more positive view of humanity. Now, later in Switzerland and France, Calvinism is going to give rise, which is going to counter this. She also believed that the papacy was the most corrupting influence on Christianity. You don't make Catholic friends by saying that. That's all I'll say.
Well, I mean, it's not like she needs Catholic friends. Like,
No.
you know, they've already removed themselves from the Catholic Church. It's not like Cromwell is pro-Catholic when he's the one that orchestrated that. So, like, at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think that that's a reason she got executed.
Right. Like, the most Catholic person in the leadership of these, like, 4 individuals, really, because Thomas Cromwell, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Henry VIII, and Anne Boleyn. The most Catholic of all 4 of them. It's Henry VIII.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah. And so, because Henry VIII just wants to get divorced, the Archbishop of Canterbury doesn't want to be subservient to the Pope. Thomas Cromwell doesn't want to have to continue financially supporting the Catholic Church as an institution, which at this point, like, the Catholic Church is kind of bleeding the people under it dry.
But I do think something that's interesting that I do think should be called out is, like, okay, Henry is concerned about his dick. Thomas is concerned about the money. The Archbishop is concerned about the money and his job. Anne is the only one that has a theological argument.
Mm-hmm.
And for a woman who's not supposed to do that, It's significant.
Right, but that's her French influence at this point of like them allow that everyone should have a theological argument. Everyone should be able to, I mean, Lutheranism at its core was like everyone should be able to, one of the reasons they want to put everything in the common language is so that people can read the Bible and have their own thoughts.
Yeah, but all of those people would still say, but women need to keep them in their own heads.
That is true. I will yield that. So just kind of Anne's legacy, it's important because she gets a lot of bad rap in history because she breaks up a very strong alliance marriage between England and Spain, which is a big deal. Like they're two powerful nations at this point.
I wouldn't say she breaks up Catherine and Henry's marriage. Henry does that.
She is blamed for that.
Yeah.
And she causes one of the biggest succession crises in English history. It really is. Like, he does not have a male heir for a long time.
Yeah.
And his male heir that does come is a boy who dies. And it's worth noting that the winner of this succession crisis is her daughter, Elizabeth I.
But I also think it should be said, and I think it can be argued that like there is no winner. Because Elizabeth is the last of the Tudors.
Yes, the House of Tudor.
The line ends after her because she doesn't have any children.
Right. And like Elizabeth is really, it's not a great time. Like we talk about Elizabeth in England, like once Elizabeth establishes her rule, things are a little more stable and a little okay. But it is like her sister Mary murders a bunch of Protestants, and then Elizabeth murders a bunch of Catholics.
Well, I mean, to be fair to Elizabeth, like she does make the
middle way.
She makes the middle way, and she really does find that middle ground between Catholicism and between Protestantism in England. And you can still see that in the Church of England today. But I think even more than that, like, she understood the religious and theological impacts of what her father did. But she also, she was a good strategic leader because she fights Spain and wins. And Spain is the one that was supposed to have the great navy. And so she proves herself in a military fashion and in a religious fashion. And so she's able to kind of unite the people under both of these areas, which clearly none of her predecessors could do.
No. Yes. And it is important that like is Anne line that takes this over and comes out. And then after Elizabeth dies, there's another succession crisis. And
then Scotland becomes part of England.
Yeah.
Or becomes part of Great Britain. So, yeah.
So, to Assassin's Creed, nothing is known about Anne's allegiance. She doesn't even have an entry on the AC Wiki.
That's interesting.
Like if you know how sometimes on the wiki they link names. If you go to Henry VIII or Elizabeth I and you link her name, it goes to Wikipedia.
Oh, the real Wikipedia.
The real Wikipedia. Also, there is not a lot known about the House of Tudor's allegiance in general, which I find very interesting because Henry VIII is just a raging Templar in my mind.
Yes.
Like he's a Templar. I don't
But
care.
like a bad one.
Yeah.
Like not a good one.
Like one the Templars have to send another Templar to deal with.
Yeah. Like, and not like a kind of like somebody who has made a Templar and they didn't expect him to get as high as he did and he just kind of fell into it.
Yeah. It's kind of like in the lore of World War II, Adolf Hitler is a Templar and then he gets out of control and the Templars are like, shit, we've got to kill him now.
Right. Yeah.
And so, but I do think this is really interesting, this fact and I think is going to kind of guide our conversation. Henry VIII is an English ruler that is excluded from Clay Kaczmarek's list of known rulers who had the Shroud of Eden.
So most of the known rulers who have that shroud are going to be Templar.
Yes, and they're English rulers because it's buried under Buckingham Palace in Syndicate. So like it is a relic of the English monarchy, but Henry VIII doesn't have it. He is excluded from the list. Like it's that his name in Subject 16 in Clay's list, his name is crossed out.
So does that mean he had it at one point, or he never knew about it?
Unclear. He never had possession of it. He's excluded from the list of English rulers who had possession of the Shroud of Eden.
That's interesting.
So, assassin or Templar, Anne Boleyn.
Okay, I have some thoughts. So the first thing that I think is really significant is her French education. As we know, France, let me go back. England has always been a Templar stronghold, right? And I know that the assassins don't really like take over France, quote unquote, until during the French Revolution. But like there was always both an assassin and a Templar presence in France before.
So just a little thing. The assassins have been in control of France for about 100 years at this point.
Okay.
Because they take control of France after the eradication of the Knights Templar.
But
which
then they
happens
lose it
in
again.
like the 14th century.
But they lose it again before the French Revolution at some point, right?
No,
because I thought Templars were in control during that.
No, they maintain an alliance, but the assassins maintain primary influence in France until the French Revolution.
Okay, great. So yes, her French education, like she was totally would have been exposed to Templar ideals, like 100%. But I think the thing that really convinces me, let me back up. And I also think, just her outspokenness, almost not quite idealism, but like her thoughts about like, oh, well, I should be able to do this. And like that kind of headstrong nature, like very much classifies her as kind of a proto-feminist, like an early feminist. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like those two things definitely make me lean more toward assassin, right? But the thing that convinces me she was totally an assassin is that she believed the papacy was a corrupting influence on Christianity. To me, that is like, okay, so that the papacy has been infiltrated by people who don't actually believe in any of this stuff, that just want the power and the pieces of Eden. You know that. You found that out, and you're trying to tell people about it. That's how that reads to me in terms of Assassin's Creed.
I definitely agree with you. And like from an Assassin's Creed history point of this, like Ezio has already taken down the Borgia at this point.
Exactly.
Like the Borgia popes have been taken down. It's a point that Ezio at one point, he goes over into Spain and around France to kind of like help against the Spanish Inquisition and to help France establish their brotherhood. Basically, like once Ezio takes down the Borgia and establishes the brotherhood in Rome, he starts reaching out and is trying to rebuild and assist brotherhoods across all of Europe, which makes sense. Like that's what you would want to do. And so I definitely agree with that. I think Anne definitely is an assassin kind of thing. And I actually think Cromwell is an assassin too.
That's interesting.
Because I think, and that's why I think that they start as allies. And I think that's why Cromwell wants to when they realize that Henry has an eye for Anne, they're like, this is our moment.
This is our end.
This is our end to wrest Templar England from Templar control.
And then they have falling out for many reasons, I assume.
Or maybe Cromwell turns.
Yeah, I could see that too.
Because, Cromwell is also executed by Henry VIII.
Yes. Well, for treason.
And so...
Understandably so.
Because he does.
I mean, he kind of does.
He does commit treason. Again, like, if you are really interested in this, go read up on some English... This is a really interesting period of English history.
Yeah.
A lot happens, a lot of betrayal. It would make, like, this era is, like, what these politically intrigued shows are based on. Like...
And none of the shows are good about this time in history. I mean, really and truly, in my personal opinion, I can't get over the just complete like disregard for the costuming. And that's my own issue.
And you get really mad at the veneers. Everyone having great teeth.
The veneers and the lip filler. Get that shit out of here. It's supposed to be the 1500s.
Yeah. But I do think that there are assassins who are trying to drive the Templar or drive the English Reformation. I definitely think the Reformation ideologies very well align with assassin ideologies. I mean, all excluding the murder. But But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think her distrust of the papacy really moves to an assassin kind of role. But like, I think this is one downside to the assassins at this time, is that they're trying to play the political game, and we all know that the assassins are best when they're working with the people and with the people on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. They lose something when they get too high up.
Because it's the kind of thing, to quote Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith, and now you've become the very thing you swore to destroy.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it makes sense, but also it's ironic because, I mean, one of the first missions of the assassins and the Order is to kill an emperor of Rome, So
yeah, with the help of two pretty high up political people, with Brutus and Cassius.
Yeah, it's ironic to say the least.
So, any other thoughts of Anne, and then we can close up?
This is not related. I just want to know the answer. Who's your favorite wife of Henry VIII?
I have a soft spot. I think that Anne Boleyn is a good person deep down. Like, I think she began as a good person. I think she's also nobility, and that gets there. But honestly, I'm a fan of Catherine of Aragon.
Interesting. I like Catherine Howard because she's the one that actually tried to commit treason against him.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I cannot recommend the musical Six enough. It's a really great musical. And it's kind of like I wouldn't call it, you could say it's like looking at all the wives from a feminist lens, as feminist as you can apply 1,500 women. But I do agree with you. I think Anne Boleyn and a lot of the six wives of Henry VIII do all in their own ways have feminist tendencies.
Well, and I mean, I think that women who are of this period, who have like the money and were educated, like, yes, they were raised to be wives and mothers, but also when you have privilege, you just have a little bit more freedom to do things. And with that freedom comes, choices. And that's really what feminism is about.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Again, I will say that probably Catherine of Aragon, I'm a fan of the originals. So the OGs.
Fair. All right. Well, once again, Austin, thank you so much for doing the research for this episode. It's been a good one. And drop us a comment whether you disagree with us, you think Anne Boleyn might be a Templar, or you just want to let us know who your favorite wife of Henry VIII is. Drop a comment, let us know. Hop in the Discord, come hang out with us. And once again, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at ACLorecast.
If you have any lore questions or topics to unpack, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. Find us on patreon.com/Assassin's Creed Lorecast. The Assassin's Creed Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode's description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, make sure you give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman. Thanks again for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. And always remember, Assassins, stay in the shadows to serve the light.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.
Want to live better? We've got a lot of work to do. Join Chris Hemsworth in National Geographic's new Disney Plus original series, Limitless. Live Better Now.
I'm diving headfirst into cutting-edge science to uncover 3 powerful secrets to living better right now. The growth that occurs through any challenging experience is really what we seek.
Chris Hemsworth stars in Limitless. Live Better Now. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
It's showtime.